possibly to. We're looking forward to another great session next week on Nantucket, although the weather might just hamper us a bit there, but confidence remains high. So I just want to introduce this session. It's the True North Initiative to bring our new reservation system online. We spent a lot of time researching this and trying to figure out exactly what kind of system we need and what kind of system we want. And we've landed on this Evita system. That's a great off-the-shelf system to replace our highly customized, very antiquated reservation system that you guys have all learned to love and respect. But this is a new system. It's going to help us increase our efficiencies as far as managing reservations, making reservations, changing reservations, help our truckers, it'll help our general public, and it'll certainly help the excursion people. One thing I want to note is this system is not going to make our boats any bigger. Our boats are as big as they are. We can only take as many cars as we can fit. This will help us find, like I said, find efficiencies. So we'll be able to squeeze more cars on there on a regular basis. So we don't have quote unquote empty boats going around. But again, there's only so many cars we can fit on it. So that is a challenge that we have to face, a reality we have to face. But this system is a good system. And today we're talking about the various policies that are going to be adjusted, changed, augmented to help us use this new system as efficiently as possible. So I thank you all again for being here, and I encourage you to sign up to be beta testers as well, so we can help make sure the system comes online efficiently and quickly. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mark Amundson, our COO, who's the project lead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. Just like to introduce the team to you. My name is Mark Amundson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. You just want to go around the round table and introduce yourself, Paul.
Paul Hennessy, Port Captain.
Veronica Giovanni is part of the Gibus team.
And Tom Ennis with Gibus. We're helping with planning and project management for this effort.
Angela Campbell, Reservations and Customer Relations Manager. Elevator Trucks Department Manager.
Allison Fletcher, Director of Shoreside Operations.
All right, great. So why don't we jump in? Thanks everyone so much, those who are joining us in person and the folks calling in. So we've got a lot to cover, and really excited to again talk about the system, share more about the project, and then we wanted to share with you some of the policy changes that we're looking at as we're implementing the system, with the intent of looking how can we truly leverage the system functionality and take advantage of the vendor opportunity. So with that, we're going to give you a little bit of update on the project timeline, update on the project, and then share a bit about the vendor, some of the benefits of the project, and jump into policy. So in terms of timeline, we've shared this before, but just to make sure everybody's up to speed. So this is a multi-year project. There's multi-year sort of planning process to get to this point. An RFP or RFR was released in the fall of 24. A series of vendors bid, and a vendor was chosen and contracted this summer. And we are now in the system configuration component. So really excited to work with the vendor. They've been a great partner so far. And we're working through the different elements of the system and some of the customizations that have been asked for as part of the RFR process. At the same time, we're really, doing a much deeper review of the system itself to understand how the different functionality works, so that we can really leverage what comes with the system. Again, part of the goal of this project, a major goal, was to use an off-the-shelf system. That was the mandate from the board. Adopt an off-the-shelf system that we know requires some level of configuration, that's part of these large scale systems. But to really, leverage the system as it is built and intended. So we're working through that process with the vendor. And then to continue, we'll be in the summer, really, having the configured system and then doing a lot of testing. We already have the names of a large group that has been volunteering to be part of the beta testing. Really appreciate that. So thanks everybody who's volunteered for that. And we'll be testing internally. We'll be working with the beta group to be testing, and then also leaning on the shipper community for to help us with testing of the system, testing the commercial shipper functions. The plan is to then launch in the fall and winter, phased rollout in October and January for initially just booking future reservations, and then in January going live with the full functionality of being able to also the ticket scanning and terminal operations at that point. In order for that to happen, we are also upgrading the terminal wiring and hardware, and working with the vendor to get their recommendations on actually handheld devices that the folks at the terminal will be able to use, so that they've got direct access into the system, and also can use it for scanning of tickets. And then just the last piece is we're also looking to launch the new website concurrent to this rollout. It's an opportunity to really enhance the full online experience, especially as we're going with with what Adia brings to the table, which is responsive design, so that there's a consistent look and feel and experience and functionality across a desktop, a tablet like an iPad, or a handheld device like a phone. And part of that is also then to launch the improved website, to have that experience also responsive design. So in order to get there, we've been working with the new vendor, which on the next slide is Adia. They're based in Italy. They serve some of the largest ferry systems in the world. Some of their major clients include BC Ferries, which is operating in British Columbia, their area around in north of Vancouver. So they already have a strong presence in North America. Another major one is Grimaldi Lines. They're one of the largest operators in the Mediterranean. And then also for those who were able to attend the last town halls, the Calmac Ferry, the Caledonian Refrain, which operates in the Scottish Isles. So if you want to get a sense of the look and feel of booking a ticket, you're welcome to go on your phone or on your desktop, try to book a reservation on Calmac, and you'll get a sense of what this vendor brings to the table. We are also one of the things we were looking for was an existing system that can handle the kind of volume and mix of passengers and vehicles that the steamship serves today. This was a differentiator across ferry systems, whether or not they handle just passengers or passengers and vehicles, how they handle freight. And so very happy to see the volume that Adia carries today. So in 24, they handled 49 million passengers, 18 million vehicles. So they've got a robust system. It's going to be hosted in the cloud, so that it's a scalable architecture, scalable infrastructure, and bringing the benefits of that to the steamship. In addition to that, there's a number of improvements we're we're looking to succeed at with the implementation of this new system. So a modern mobile experience, again, being able to have much better functionality on the for the mobile experience, which means that this new system will replace the existing mobile ticketing, and it will replace the other mobile ticketing, and it will replace the other mobile ticketing. Because right now we've got 3 different mobile experiences depending on what kind of ticket you're trying to buy. So consolidating that all into one much better experience. We're looking to empower users with self-service, so the ability to have more flexibility with modifying reservations, uploading documents, looking at your travel history, etc. It provides the opportunity for paperless travel. So if you want to have a digital ticket, it enables that. But just to clarify, because this was misreported in some of the press, you'll still have the option of a paper ticket. That's the idea here, is really customer facing. So however you want to have the ticket, you can bring it. If you want if it's going to be easier for you to have a paper ticket, you can print it out at home. You can come to the terminal office, still have a ticket. The ticket printers, we're working with the vendor on what the actual ticket looks like, but we're actually going to hold on to the same ticket printers we have today. So you'll still be able to go to the terminal office, get a paper ticket, and use that for your travel. But if you prefer, then you'll be able to use improved functionality on having digital tickets. So it's really, it's going to be a QR code. And so wherever you can put that QR code is what's going to be your ticket. In addition, there's going to be a commercial customer portal. We're very excited about, because the better that we give tools to our commercial customers to manage their travel, the more accurate we can make sure that our loading and booking is, and that makes the overall management of the deck space better, and opens up the ability to use that space for travel. We're going to be updating special programs, so making it both easier to send your documentation in, because you can still bring it in paper, but also being able to upload it online. But we also know that folks have been asking for the ability to check their status in real time, and so that'll be available where you'll be able to log into your account and see the status of the program. For instance, like the update to the excursion program. You'll be able to see your travel history similar to today, and then a major benefit of the system is notifications. There'll be a lot more flexibility in notifications. Right now, it's very limited in terms of your ability to, right today, you can have either phone or email, not both, and you can't have multiple people. That's going to change in the new system. You'll be able to manage that, and have more notifications, or turn off some notifications if it gets to be too much. We're looking at ways to improve the terminal operation, streamline the check-in process. This will be something that the new system will allow this to continue to improve over time. So we're hoping that we can have benefits day one, but then also as we move forward with the new system, it really opens up some opportunities to leverage the reservation system, use technology and continue to improve and streamline the terminal experience. You'll be able to look up your coupons, and see how many you have left so that you've got better visibility into that. And then, and then have a more personalized experience. So we're making a lot of changes because what we're trying to achieve is to get to a point where you're able to book your desired reservation the first time. And to get away from different processes where you're having to book a reservation that is that doesn't work for you in order to waitlist in the time that you do want. And so really trying to look at all the different things that need to change so that we can have folks booking the actual desired day, desired time that they want. It won't be perfect because it's still there's still limitations in terms of the amount of deck space, but really trying to use that space better and have it align with the priorities that we're trying to achieve as an operation. So in order to get there, there's a bunch of different changes on the policy side. So we're making some pretty major updates on the commercial side, but then also looking at how we can make updates on the public side. And part of this is really trying to adopt industry best practices, really leverage the new system functionality, and make sure that we're configuring a system that's going to work long term, and continue to make it easier to operate and improve over time. So on the policy side, there's a policy package that is available online that was shared with the board and the Port Council. We're going to dive into a couple things. These include allocations, so how deck space is allocated. Some things we won't cover in detail today, updating the preseason and freight policies. We're also looking at product definitions, and then finally inventory management, which is we know a hot topic around updates to the wait list and standby. And then on the next slide, please keep in mind that we're trying to make multiple changes at the same time, so that because any one of these changes results in some improvement, but combined together really opens doors in terms of the ability to serve the traveling public. So on the allocation side, moving to linear feet, much more accurate accounting of deck space and booking of deck space and availability of deck space, so that right now we'll get into it in a bit more detail, but right now the space, the way that space is managed is really a step function. And because vehicles don't come in convenient 20-foot increments, this is moving to linear feet is just going to be more accurate. We're making some refinement to vehicle sizes and types. An example of this is just that we're updating things like the definition of motorcycle, the definition of a bicycle versus the e-bike, so that we're making sure that we're updating the policy to reflect the vehicles folks are actually showing up with. We're working at how can we reduce cancellations, reduce no-shows, And, as much as possible, incentivize, especially the shippers, to tell us as early as possible when they're gonna, when they're not gonna be able to make a trip. And then the last piece is, really looking at the wait list and how the wait list is working today, and also how the wait list is not working. And one of the big things is just the, getting away from, the churn of the wait list, especially, where that results in space that ultimately can't get resold. And so how can we make all four of these areas more efficient so that, again, folks can, have a better chance, a much higher probability of booking their desired reservation, desired day, the first time around. So we want to jump into a couple of the specific policy recommendations and changes. Mark, do you want to share a bit about the change from spaces to linear feet?
Sure. Presently, what we have is in our present legacy booking system, we have 1 space, 2 space, 3, 4, and 5 space. Now you have to fit the truck in a specific space, and it doesn't and we end up having space that we can't book the cars because we don't utilize all the space. So the new reservation system is going to be in linear feet. So when we have the trucks come in, they'll be booked to the exact foot. Meanwhile, we have it broken down in templates on the vessel where we'll have general space, which is the total space, and then we'll have high deck space, which would be where the trucks can go. We'll have all different sizes, low deck space. The end result is to be able to get to the vessel the number of linear feet and the type of vessels and type of trucks and cars that we have, so we can have a skill plan before the vessel gets to the dock. And that's the key to open up the extra space. Also, is we will be able to better we want to be able to move in our terminal operations, have the trucks and load plans pre-configured. That way we know exactly what's going on the boat, quicker turnaround times. That's the end goal, is to be able to get more vehicles on the vessel and better turnaround times. So with that, and as Tom was talking about the cancellations and other bookings, we need people, for instance, if you're not going to take a trip and you're there, it is to cancel far enough ahead of time so we have time to rebook that trip. Because, we heard this morning and in the meetings over in Martha's Vineyard that everyone always gets their trip in the very end, but if you knew you had the correct space to begin with, you could book it, and you need to know far enough out there that you have the ability to book. So we're not getting that with the legacy system that we have, and that's really kind of the driver of the linear feet to make our operations more efficient.
Yeah, so the reality is that today, when the boat is fully booked, we're often only using 95% of the available deck space. And so with this shift to linear feet, making all of that space available for booking, making it a much more exact process. Why don't we stop there for just a second? Any questions or comments?
I have one.
Yes.
If you're on standby with your car, is that gonna still be available? I mean, you just said there's 10% really used. 90% of the space might, or 10% of the space might not be used.
Yep.
But is that normally used today for standby, or is it, are you gonna get rid of?
It's the reason why we have that 5 to 10% space that's not being utilized is not because we're trying to save it for standby. We would like it booked right away. It's because of our spacing allocations. So a 2 space can go from 21 feet to 34 feet 11 inches. If you have 2 booked on there, and they're both 21 feet, that's an extra 26 feet that we can't book because the system won't allow us to. So that's why there's always space to build a couple extra cars on the boat. By going linear, we'll have more space. It'll seem like more space up front because now everything is booked to the foot. And we'll be able to get that extra car on where we wouldn't have been before, so.
But I'm just wondering, are you still gonna have standby?
Standby or boomerang? I don't know, anyone have
Well,
a
standby, is if, let's say you got you couldn't get a ticket on the boat for your car.
Right,
So you pull in, you park the car there, and it could be 2 or 3 or 4 other trips before your car gets on the ferry, because you're now on standby,
So-
and you pay money.
right. So we are looking at potentially keeping the blue line, which is the island resident standby line.
Okay.
We're probably, most likely, it's not a definite, going to go to reservation only every day like we currently are doing.
Okay.
But there will be, we're trying to see how we can work a blue line for island residents into it, where you still have that option for standby.
We have an additional question on the chat. Will the new system make better use of the island home upper racks for cars?
Ooh, great question. Yes, so one of the things that the new system has is has the ability to shift between templates for the different vessels. And so we're looking at so in those templates, and we've already been working with IDEA to configure the use of 1 or 2 of the lift decks. And so the intent is to, where we can, make that space actually available for booking. Now we're working through how to do that. There's some trade-offs because the availability and use of the lift decks, for instance, like if both of the lift decks are being used, you can't then book shippers onto that because there's no space, because the lift deck would crash down on top of the truck, so that doesn't work. So looking at how to adjust the schedule, use the templates, and try to also use just understanding of travel patterns, reporting on travel patterns to know which trips does it make sense to make, for instance, all cars that then the lift decks could be used more often on a more consistent basis than sometimes is happening today.
There's a follow-up question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know. So thank you so much for having the open forum. It's really appreciated. I just want to go back to what you had mentioned earlier about your stat that like 90%, 90 to 95% of the space is what's used, and just relay a very common consumer experience that I know I probably am not alone in experiencing, which is the fact that say you are only able to get on a 8:30 ferry because the entire day is booked. And very often what we will do is travel to the area earlier. You make your phone calls, and if you actually can get through to the poor overworked people in the call center who are very helpful when you can get them, you ultimately show up and you arrive at a much earlier boat, and that boat is not even 50 to 60% full. So you can imagine as a consumer that being an extremely frustrating experience. And as someone who's been coming to the island for over 30 years, it's really only an experience that has come into play in the last 7 or 8 years, I would say. So are you saying that the new system is going to account for that dynamic change in real-time inventory? Because that is just a recurring problem that seems to be happening more and more frequently. In addition to that, it's very, very common nowadays to be on island and want to get off. And every single boat, Monday through Friday, shows as completely full and booked until a day or two before, which clearly isn't the case. So, my hope is that that's
No, losing you, Ken.
Oh, yeah, we lost the end there. Can you repeat that?
The very end.
He's gone.
I'm sorry,
Alright,
did you
well-
get that last piece?
No.
Can you just, the last sentence?
Sure, just the idea of, like I don't know where you cut off, so I apologize. But the idea of like trying to get off an island in the middle of the week and all of the ferries consistently show as full until a day or two before.
Yeah. So there's several dynamics going on there. So part of it is intentional, which is the availability of the 1 day and 7 day preferred space. But then the other piece is that as we get closer to the trip, if you have, for instance, if you have a large truck cancel or change their reservation, that opens up, that could quickly open up for spaces. And so we're really trying to work with shippers to cancel or change their trips as early as possible so that there's less kind of shifting around at the very end as we get very close to the time of travel.
Because currently, right now, you can be on a wait list until noon the day before. And if someone cancels after noon the day before, then that space just becomes available to everybody and waitlist matches don't get it. And that's why you'll see spaces opening up sometimes because there's no one there to take the waitlist match and now it's just sitting there and hopefully it gets used.
Yeah, so in some cases, while the wait list is the current wait list is beneficial, it also is creating a lot of movement across the trips, and that's part of the reason why suddenly space is opening up as that different wait list is getting resolved, and people are actually finally just taking either taking the trip or canceling it.
Hello. I have a question and, first, thank you so much for doing this and for including the public in the planning of all this and the big change that's coming. In terms of allocation, how do you determine who gets priority to get into those open spaces when you realize there's open spaces and there's cars waiting for the next ferry, they already have a reservation. Are you going to, because you're doing by linear feet, are you going to take 2 cars that will fill all that linear feet, or will you take 3 cars and leave some extra linear feet? So that how do you prioritize who gets that extra space?
So our waitlist and standby will be configurable by the customer itself. And it depends on when these cancellations are happening. If it's happening before, like I said, the day before, the waitlist automatically takes care of it, making those matches for people. If not, if it's afternoon, but still the day before, it's first come, first served, either calling Mashpee or going online and booking. And it's the day of, right now, how we do it is we just take what's on the property, but it could be something that we allow booking up to almost an hour, half hour before the departure, probably about a half hour, but at least an hour before departure.
So, I mean, so there is, so the first come, first serve thing, who is sitting there is not going to be the rule anymore. It's going to be maximizing filling the space so that you have 100% coverage, and that's how the system will prioritize.
And we would like to know what the loads are gonna be fairly soon, because the crews do have to take time to figure out how they're gonna do it. Cause right now it comes down to the boat comes in, the agent talks to the bosun, and the bosun has to on the fly figure out the load. So by knowing at least an hour in advance, it gives our crew members on the vessels time to figure out a perfect loading plan. So we do need to give them some time to be able to make those decisions as well.
Yeah, so and it's something, I mean, it's a good question. It's something we're trying to work through, which is where should we be leveraging who's on the wait list? And that have been trying to get particular times versus the, right, versus the today where the wait list shuts down and then it becomes, who is willing or able to show up to the terminal to wait for the trip. We're trying to reestablish that balance. And it's a question of fairness. I'm sure everybody's got an opinion on it, but trying to figure out what's the, how much can and should we be leveraging the system all the way up through the day of sail, all the way up almost to the time of the trip. And then at what point does it make sense to, understand that, in order for in order to occupy, best use the space, that, if there's going to be a couple no-shows, we still benefit from pulling a couple people and having them, fill in and get on board. What we've seen as we've been going through this, both from our requirements and then looking at it operationally, is that we've gotten to a point where it's not really working well for most people. And as was mentioned before, that because we're not able to fully book out the boats using the existing reservation system, we've created a dynamic where there's a greater dependence on folks showing up to the terminal to try to get on the vessel. And so we want to move to really using the new system to book accurately, book it in advance. And so and we're trying to balance things like folks that need to plan ahead for their travel and do their best to plan ahead for their travel, and know that there's lots of travel that has to happen last minute. There's lots of travel that is unplanned, and so there's a balance between, right, like with the to give an example, like with one day preferred, that creates space for excursion and preferred to be able to book fairly last minute and get onto the vessel. The more that we hold spaces for one day preferred, the less that is available for people to plan ahead with their travel. So there's a balance. And we're we're trying to look at that balance. And this is where, you know, we'd love to continue to get feedback, continue to get people's thoughts, and then also, with the new system, I should mention that there's gonna be much greater, reporting, much greater, access to analytics. And so we're also, as much as possible, once the system goes live, to make more data-informed decisions, data-driven decisions, so that we can allocate space based on people's actual travel patterns, and have it more refined than it is today.
We have more comments on the chat. Having spaces for standby, for medical and things like this is important and needs to be included as an option.
Yeah, so we understand that medical is very important to folks. It will continue to be important to folks, and that is very much in all of our discussions, how to make sure that we are in any of these changes, that we are managing space to allow for medical.
So going back to the lifts, the lifts question, if you put the lifts and the lifts are broken, then what? From the evolution.
If that happens, then what would happen was those customers that were on the lift that had the tickets for this lift would actually be, they would fall into the same categories if your boat canceled. So we would try to get you on the next possible available boat to compensate for the lift deck breaking.
But if you only utilize one, maybe you could take advantage of the other, right? No?
In theory.
Okay.
I mean, it brings up the point that, you know, all of this is dependent upon having the vessels in good working order, and then also the lift decks. You know, the more consistent the lift decks are used, the more and more consistent the lift decks are available. So the lift decks offer an opportunity for space that can be booked. On other ferry systems, lift decks are, I don't know, Mark, you wanna jump in? The lift decks are commonly used.
Yes, and matter of fact, we want to incorporate the lift decks in everyday use, not just in emergencies. So that's an important thing to get some extra capacity.
If I could ask, could I ask a question about people that live on the island, excursion, people that have been approved for excursion, and what consideration is being made for people that have had frustration 52 weeks a year as opposed to just 2 weeks a year? And I'm not belittling people that come to the island as renters or vacationers or whatever. It's all frustrating and it's all important. But I'm wondering, as an excursion customer, have you worked out anything that's new relative to the way it's been handled in the past?
I mean, that's part of what these conversations are about, is to understand. I mean, we got a lot of really great feedback, especially in yesterday's discussion on the vineyard, in terms of understanding, you know, use cases of how people are using the ferry, understanding what are some of the challenges that especially excursion customers face, and that has given us additional insight. I mean, we have a lot of insight, but it's given us additional insight into how folks are using the ferry, how they're using the different options available to them today. And we're working as a project team to understand how can we leverage some of the functionality within the system to both accommodate those needs and make them a little easier. So We don't have specific changes specifically related to excursion to share today, but that's a big part of collecting the feedback is to understand understand what the needs are, what your needs are, and how you're using the system so that we can incorporate that thinking as we're setting this up. There's a lot of opportunity within the new system to look at how excursion and preferred what the booking experience is. And so again, just trying to understand what are some of the things, what are some of the highest priority things that we need to be looking at as we're considering any changes as we go live.
I'll just add one thing to that, if I could, that as a resident who has to get off island very often for all types of appointments and events that are happening, you don't ever know when you're going to be able to head back, more often than not, to Woods Hole to get on a boat. So you show up early, and it's you live there 52 weeks. It happens often, so it would be nice if there was some type of a consideration for when you show up early, because you were able to get back to Woods Hole earlier.
So that is what we're considering keeping the blue line for, which is for anybody that is in the excursion and the preferred program, you can utilize blue line. So we're looking at how to use that and how to utilize it with the system, so it still continues to work.
Right. What is the difference between excursion and preferred? Because
So excursions basically is anybody that lives on the island year round,
Yeah.
owns property,
Well,
is on the mailing lists, votes. Preferred people are people that own property on the island but don't necessarily live out there year round. So preferred people get the same benefit as the blue line and the preferred space, but they don't get the discount that the excursions get.
Okay, it's just that this blue line, since it started when I get in it, you ask people if they have excursion, and more often than not, they don't. And I just didn't understand.
Yeah, because they have preferred, and chances are if you see an out-of-state plate,
Yeah,
it's the same thing as they are preferred because they own property on the island. They just don't have that as a primary residency.
And to clarify, being in either program is not relative to owning property. It is relative to qualifying in the programs.
okay. All right, thank you very much.
I've had my hand raised, and I actually want to be a single person example of what's been wrong for the system for me. Not much. I would like more availability of boats, but I understand we have a finite number of boats. But what I have seen, and I'm going to use our island communication system of Islanders Talk, is constant pictures of empty boats. And so I had to go through this, and the audio on my end is not great. So I'm going to explain this from a personal person perspective. I am fairly smart about how I'm going to book. Sometimes I have to book ahead for medical. Sometimes I just want to get off island. But what's important is that I can book 10 trips in advance currently. I'm sure you're going to change this. And up to an hour in advance, change them to open and have no penalty. I do not believe that was always the case. And I have taken advantage of it. Oh, I think I might go off island in a week and a half. Oh, you know what? It's 10 o'clock and I'm not going to take the 11 boat. And I cancel it. And I'm going to change it. And nothing happens. And I've said this to people and they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm saying, you know what? I do this whenever I want. I don't know if there was ever a penalty for the amount of time you changed or canceled beforehand. I would recommend that. If I cancel an hour in advance, put in any number of dollars in there and you will have a less empty boat. I think that's one of the reasons you've had empty boats is that people are going, it's not even gaming the system. It's perfectly allowed. So I understand the linear feet. I really, that's a really good point. But at the same time, if somebody says, you know what, I'm stuck on the island, I might want to go off 10 times this winter. And I will go off 10 times this year. That's all they have to do. So please take that into consideration that people want the optimum ability to change their plans. And I love it. Okay, other than that, please take into consideration, I will say, I love the wait list as it is so that I can go, oh, you know what? I can't get off at 2. I'll book on the 12. Otherwise, I'll go tomorrow or the day before. And that's been very helpful. Standby has been great. I don't use it very frequently, but have. The Blue Line I haven't tested yet. And Preferred, of course, is great because I live here. And I would like a discount for trying to get on and off. Sometimes I wish it was easier to get back on the island. Off, you can kind of work on the system. But it has not been as easy to do it this way. So my major thing is really that make sure that when people have a rest, maybe it's a $10, $15 cancellation if you change it within an hour. You may be changing the system so drastically, I'm not quite hearing it, that no longer applies. But to force people into boxes when we live here, I don't agree with. You're going to get the ticket you want. I actually read that. We're going to make sure that you get the ticket. And you know what? I may change my mind about the ticket I want. Let me have that flexibility. That's really a statement more than a question, unless you can tell me it's not just linear feet. This problem showed up about 5-6 years ago with the empty space on boats. Explain to me why, other than linear feet, there has been so much space suddenly available, except the pandemic, where we may have a bunch of people doing exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Thank you for doing this meeting. It's really helpful for us. And I'm done.
I think you're spot on when you're talking about changing reservations and not having any penalty associated with that. People are doing it. It just doesn't allow the reservation system to work. We need to have trip certainty. And in that, we need to have some mechanism to have behavior change so that people do not have multiple reservations on days they don't even intend on travel. That's kind of hurting the system. And then we end up having open spaces. We can't, when people make last minute cancellations, we don't have the people to fill that spot right away. So it's a culmination of also on the freight side, the trucking side, of the truckers doing the same thing. And then it's just getting down to the last minute, and now we have extra space available without being able to make a booking for that. And I think you explained that very well, that type of behavior, we've got to find a way of changing behavior so we can have trip certainty.
I will throw in there that, and this you could actually do as an experiment. If you said to me it's a $10 penalty if I change that within an hour, or even a day, I will think more carefully about my travel plans. If you made it $20 before an hour, then people would really change their behavior. And I've actually thought of that as a modifying behavior function that I would think it through more clearly. I wouldn't make it a huge penalty because we really don't want to throw these people off the boat, so to speak. But I would make it a dissuading thing and see what happens when people go, I don't want to spend another $10. And it can even be that little. So just a suggestion, having thought about this a bunch.
Great comment. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
we appreciate that, because that is something that we've been talking about, just to follow up on Mark's comments, is where does it make sense to implement really nominal, small change fees, just so because there's a really big difference in behavior when something's free versus something costs a few dollars. And so we understand that whenever we talk about fees, there's always a question of economic burden. We always have to be very sensitive of that. But also just looking at how can we be to your point, just make sure that folks are using the system, being intentional about the system, and motivating folks to, give us, give us their best information as early as possible. So, we won't get this perfect, but but we're trying to improve on how it works today.
Can I ask a
Someone,
follow-up
hang
question?
on, Eric, 1 second,
Yeah.
because it's the same question. Someone just posted, but don't you have to pay if you change your res a number of times? Yes, and it's almost perfect. If I change within a day, there has been no penalty. If I change within another day, then I think I get one change and then I have to pay. That dissuades enough people, I think. That, and now Eric, go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off, but finish the conversation.
Thanks.
Questions in the chat, Eric, apologies. There's some questions before you, if that's okay, if we can address those.
Sure, yeah.
Will the new system show all boats on the schedule? Seems like only some trips show up on the printed schedules.
So right now with the printed schedules, the only reason why certain trips show up is because we only put the conventional ferries on there. The freight boats, we don't put on the printed schedule because they do have limited passenger capacity. But it's something that we can look to have it start added to the website when you go online to see what the next boats are. We've done that modification on the other end for Nantucket, and that's something that we could look at doing on this end as well, at least on the website.
And to be clear, all the vessels are always available, should they be available to book, whether it's online or over the phone, they're never not available to book. Unless they're completely at capacity. To Allison's point, the purpose of that is the limited passenger capacity. We used to have the freight boats on the schedule. And what happened was we had a number of passengers show up at the dock on the day of looking to get on those boats, and they couldn't because we had a limited number of passenger spaces on those boats. So in effort to avoid people showing up for a trip that they were unable to actually get on, we removed it from the printed schedule, because if you were gonna travel with your vehicle and you were going to get on one of those boats if it was available, whether you called in, whether you went standby, or whether you went online, because they were still available for purchase so long as there was space. So it's definitely something we can revisit. But there was a purpose for it, so we weren't, dissuading, people from,
You can book a freight boat if you wanna book a freight boat.
Yeah.
And we'll look at getting it more visible for the public.
We have another question from Cantor. How will the new system account for the need for space for emergency medical ambulance vehicles?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So it's definitely something that is a major point of discussion across the project team. How much do we need to preserve space? How much do we know that there's also, right, there's two different kinds of ambulances, right? There's ambulances that are more for transfer, and those are more scheduled, and those are more predictable of when they're gonna travel. And then there's ambulances for urgent travel. And so and so we're always going to make sure that there's that the ambulance that needs to get on gets on the boat. But to be perfectly honest, as we're trying to make the space available to book, as we get better at it, and that leads to less empty boats. When we have less empty boats, we're running the system tighter. We're running the tolerance tighter. We're making sure that space is available to book ahead of time, which means that then if there's an ambulance that needs to get on, it does raise the chance.
We also do have a policy that if it's an emergency and that ambulance has to get on, we will bump cars to put an ambulance on for an emergency. So if it's that type of situation, the ambulance is getting on the boat regardless.
Yep.
From Jessica, the preferred program is extremely important to islanders who sometimes need to leave for a variety of reasons that are not always known more than a week or two in advance. I hope you will continue to offer this as an option for those of us who live here.
Yes.
Yes, we're not getting rid of the preferred space. It's still gonna be part of the process.
And now we can go to Eric. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you very much. I am an Islander and I live there. So a quick question, I guess a few. Number one, this is all sort of a lead towards improving marginal income by ensuring that you're not filling your boats. I'm sure you've considered, but why have you rejected the possibility of surge pricing? Just to use an obvious example, a one-way ticket on a hot boat on Friday evening in July, those are realistically worth $500. In comparison, you're running freight boats that are half full and you're doing it in January. Why can't somebody who holds a preferred ticket sneak off and get on those, since the marginal cost to you of running is very slow, any level of marginal income is there. Why are you not differentiating in that way to maximize the total profit? Because the higher the profit, the more flexible you can be.
Great question. So that is an out of the box feature of the new system. The dynamic pricing, surge pricing is part of the new system. It's something that other ferry systems that use the IDEA system are using. And we've definitely had some discussions around using that functionality. That's an area of change that we're trying to balance in terms of go live, how many changes we should do all at the same time. So for right now, the thinking is that may be too much change to do right out of the gate. But it is an option that is part of this new reservation system. It actually has really good functionality for it. It's kind of nice. And it's pretty intuitive and pretty intuitive both from a customer perspective and an internal perspective. So it worked well. Of course, the economist in me loves that idea.
Yeah.
But and that's something that is then on the table to consider at some point. But that would be a really big change.
Well, we currently do
Thank you.
a milder version of that right now in the summer, where the weekend tickets are more money than the weekday tickets. So it is definitely something that once you said, like Tom said, once we get the system going, that we can start looking into getting it more down to trip specific, not just day specific.
Yeah, and the system has the ability to, similar to like, you may have seen this, like, trying to take an airline where the first cohort of tickets has one price, and then that last couple of tickets cost more than every other ticket.
No, that's good to hear. Can I ask one somewhat similar? You know what? I apologize. I interrupted your response. My apologies.
No, thank you. What's your next question or comment?
My next one had to do just with sharing of information. Would it be possible with this new system for an average user to easily be able to determine how full a boat currently is, irrespective of surge pricing? Surge pricing gives that signal about how rapidly you need to book or how important it is that you buy something. But one thing that I think really does advantage a lot of people is trying to have some understanding of, is this boat about to fill up? Is this day about to fill up? And right now, although clearly there is data somewhere in the server that knows how booked a boat is relative to capacity, neither the reservation agents or the end user can access that. Is there something that you imagine to provide that information in the context of reservations?
So that is something that we did talk about with the vendor. Right now that their system is similar to today, where you can see if a trip is full or not full. But we're working with the vendor as just a regular update to their system, because this would be something that they would need to make a decision of, is it something that would be helpful across all of their customers? But it is something that we had gotten a previous question about this and had followed up with the vendor to see their thoughts on the ability to do something like that. But it's limited today.
And then that leads into my final question, which it may be too late, but how many of your determinations on what you're willing to do here are predetermined by what the vendor is saying is their easy capacity? And I'm only asking because if we're having conversations where it seems like you've selected a vendor and your responses to me and or other people are limited by vendor capacity, why are these conversations taking place after you've selected, and why not consider the possibility of using different vendors? I mean, I'm sorry, but the idea of selling tickets to things is something we've been doing as long as there have been airlines, ferries, buses, and shows, right? So it's not an inherently unsolved problem.
So a lot of what we are bringing to everyone today some of it is configuration, so just how we're going to use the new system, and then some of it are areas where it's already a version of a customization, and so we're working with the vendor to figure out how do we solve some of these things within their system, within the capabilities that their system has, and make sure that we're also not asking for something that sort of breaks their system integrity. And so it's kind of a mix and it's a balance, but ultimately we're some of the things that we're bringing to you are if we look at their system, 95% of their system is already working and it's really great, and so we want to use that. And then there's that additional 5+% of the system that is going to be custom to some of the specific needs of the steamship authority. Maybe it'd be a good time to move on to, so their system treats waitlist in a different way, and we've been working with the vendor to configure how waitlist will work in the new system. So to start with, the vendor has something that they call standby, which is what a lot of, especially the islanders, we understand, use to book tickets that they're waitlisting on. So the vendors out of the box has the ability to purchase what's called a standby ticket. And the standby ticket is you are purchasing the option to go on a particular trip at a particular time, and then that puts you in the queue for that trip. So so if you get a match for that standby ticket, then you take that trip. If you don't get a match, your money's refunded and you don't take that trip. That's what the vendor brings to the table, is their kind of recommendation for how to deal with this, when folks want to take a trip but it's not available, the space is full, and so that's the vendor recommendation of how we get away from having folks book on a day that they don't intend to travel in order to waitlist into the day that they do intend to travel. So trying to shift that dynamic to having folks purchase standby tickets for the dates and times that they want to travel.
Thank you.
The,
Thank you for your response.
And then the wait list, they're after a lot of discussion, they've come back with a new version of the wait list. And so the wait list in their system is intentionally much more constrained than the wait list that folks have gotten used to with the existing system. The idea with the wait list is that if you have a trip booked, then you could wait list within typically within the same day to get onto a better time. So that if you would if you get a ticket on a particular day and you're looking to try to get to a better time, you would wait list to that better time. But if you don't have a trip for that particular day, then you would wanna go on standby for that day, and you purchase a standby ticket for the dates and times that you're looking for. So you essentially use a combination of the two depending on what travel you're trying to take.
And Tom, can I interject quickly here? I know waitlist and standby is a major topic for people, and understandably so, but I know I can see from scrolling, there's lots of questions that are being asked, and I appreciate you trying to answer the questions on the fly, but I think it'd be good to be able to pull those questions out, because we're not gonna be able to address all of them by the time this is over. So there's a way to pull the questions out, have thoughtful responses to all of those, and get that method. I don't know if there's a follow-up to send these messages out. So all the questions can't get answered and can't get there. I appreciate what you're trying to do, and I can see they keep coming in. You just can't stay on top of them. So there's gotta be a way that we can then send all the questions, all the responses back out, post them somewhere on the website. Do something like that, just to make sure everybody gets their questions asked or answered, sorry.
Yeah, it's a great point, and certainly might make sense to your point, to put together some kind of like an FAQ on the new wait list. How will it work, and then what are the areas where we're still looking for some feedback. Yeah, definitely.
Us?
Can I ask, this wait list, standby, everything is fine and good, but there's something we can't control, and that's bad weather. And I've been in a situation going to Nantucket where the boats were canceled, and then everybody had to scurry around and try to get waitlisted for the next boat. That I had 2 boats canceled at the same time, same day. And this was before a holiday. And I've also been on the island where we knew a hurricane was coming, and everybody was trying to get off the island before the boats stopped running. So is there gonna be a change to that, or do we even know? I know you can't control it, but is anything gonna be different besides everybody has to scuttle around and try to do what they can to get on?
I think I'll take that question. So as you know, we have limited, when we have an impending weather situation this weekend.
Right.
So right now, we're trying to get extra service, for instance, get hazmat over there early, get as much service as we can, but we are limited to the assets that we have in the location right now. The new reservation system will handle that better, but at the very end, we're still limited in capacity when we have a weather event like that, because everyone wants to get off. There's only so many seats on the boat, and so many lined up, because we have crews, that are dedicated for that service. Last thing we want to do is cancel. We want to run, but when we have a weather situation like that, we do have limitations of what we actually can do. I hope that makes some sense.
Well, I assume that the new system is gonna be notifying people, like, be aware, there's a weather system, is weather involved in all that notification and things like that? For people, I mean, I would assume you try to do the best you could in that situation, but I just don't know. I mean, it can be a couple of days, your rental ends on Saturday, and you have no place to go for 2 days because of the weather. And and you can't get back on your boat, and now you gotta find a, place to stay, it's, I'm just wondering what kind of notification.
You'll be able to pick your communication, whether it be SMS or email. The new system is gonna be very friendly, and that's part of why we selected it like that. So you'll definitely get improved notification. And you'll be able to pick how you get it.
And who gets it? You can have
Yes.
more than one person too. Where right now it's, or the email is on the account, what phone number it is. You'll be able to have more people have that option too, so.
It's a much more robust communication process, but at the end of the day, we're seeing it this week, and I gotta go run to a weather call here in a few minutes, but we know that Sunday, people are gonna start, either trying to get out of the island, but then it's gonna shut down. Snow's gonna start, Monday could be a bad day too for snow. Sunday, we're looking now, we might have 2 days worth of people, everybody trying to get off or get on Tuesday. And it's a challenge, and unfortunately, the system makes them much more efficient and much easier to do adjustments. But it can't create more spots, so it's gonna be a challenge. Weather's always gonna be a challenge, regardless of what system we have.
And just to go a little bit further, we will begin, if we can get planned extra service, that's part of what we're doing in our planning cycles now. So we try to be very proactive in it, but we do have some limitations.
Thank you.
Will there be more of these?
Well, more, yes.
More of these.
Yes.
I mean, the questions are coming and some of them are new and some of them are old, but this is so critical to my existence, living here full time, that I'm hoping that you will have what you can have to have as many people. There are people who aren't here today who can't be here. So, if you can, just encouraging that.
I'd love to chime in if I could. First of all, I want to say thank you because I think you've done a really excellent job thinking through the use cases and servicing both the businesses and the vacation travelers as well as people who live on the island either full or part-time. The thing I'd really wish that you could do is take another pass at the waitlist and the standby scenarios, because I think that there's a gap between what we need as consumers and the way that people travel on and off the island and the sorts of constraints that they have, as a function of their daily lives, and the system that you're proposing here. I'm concerned that the standby option isn't really going to solve a problem for the people who, have to move round trip, and that the current wait list system in and of itself actually works reasonably well. Now, there's the whole question about, understanding the boat's capacity and making sure that boats are full and that the reservation system accurately reflects the capacity of the boat. But I think that if that part were fixed, the waitlist system that we have today is actually pretty workable and works for scenarios for people who are trying to come and go to and from the island as part of their daily life, as well as for seasonal residents and for vacationers who are bringing that needed revenue to the island. So if I had guidance or a request to you as you're kind of thinking through the input that you've received, is I think that those use cases could really use another pass.
Thank you, good
Yeah.
comments.
Thanks for that. And we know lots of folks are putting in questions. One of the things that would be helpful to us is also, if you've got some specific scenarios to share so that we can say, okay, like how would we solve for this particular scenario? It's really helpful in terms of a use case, in terms of a story. Okay, like given this kind of travel, given this kind of priority, this kind of urgency, how would I use this new system? How would I use the functionality that's being talked about? And then we can figure out both where do we need to, work with the vendor to make changes, or where do we need to, help people understand how they would do it in the new system. Because we understand, right, this is a big change, that whether you like the wait list or don't like the wait list, you have gotten used to how it works, and you've gotten relatively used to what kind of trying to achieve that mix of trip certainty versus trip flexibility. And so the reality is that in the new system, the wait list is going to work different. And we're trying to make it so that people are still able to have that similar mix of trip certainty and trip flexibility, but have it work in a slightly different way. And so and use this new system in a slightly different way. But in order to do that, we really need your thoughts and feedback. So again, we really appreciate all the questions, all the comments, all the different user stories. It's really helpful to us. And I see, Alicia, did you have a comment?
I did. It's kind of waitlist standby ticketing adjacent. I was kind of just doing the math here, and I also realized that it is now cheaper for me to fly to Boston or to keep my car off island and just do walk on, walk off than do 10 tickets a year or something like that. So I know this is about the standby and wait list, and I have lots of comments about that, but I just realized it is cheaper for me to do it the other way. So maybe something to consider in all of this, because I know other people are in the room, is to consider lowering the prices and cutting financial corners elsewhere to help compensate. So that's just my 2 cents real quick.
And I want to piggyback on that. I know I don't have my hand up, but there should also be a consideration that by doing the opposite and having your car off island and walking on, as opposed to trying to get your car off and on every time you go off, there should be an Islander excursion holder discount at your parking facilities. We shouldn't have to pay the same as somebody who would be parking a car there and here seasonally.
Yeah, so my point exactly is you're losing business because there's a lot of us that are choosing to walk away from using you. I've seen other stats where more and more people are choosing to fly into the island than using the Steamship Authority, period. So just food for thought for you guys.
And also piggybacking on the wait list and standby, we really need the flexibility of standby, of wait list, because if we're looking at the summer and we're trying to get off for an appointment, whatever it may be, it might not be, emergency medical, but we're trying to get off and there's nothing available within days of where we actually want to travel. How do we go about efficiently not booking a trip that we don't intend on taking versus waitlisting for what we want to take? And we don't want to hold up space on something we're not going to take. But if that's our only option to get off, we're going to need that.
Yeah, understood. And that's part of what we're working through is right now the only option we've given you is to book a trip that you may or may not want to take and then waitlist to try to get the trip you want to take. So we recognize that you are all depending on the tools that you have today, and the intent of this is to get to a place where using the new system this works better. The intent of this is not to take away the ability to travel, for whatever reason.
Right. And then essentially by using the linear footage, there's going to be less standby cars taken per trip. So when you've got somebody who's waitlisted in the system and somebody has a standby ticket, who gets the priority?
That is a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the concept is to continue going, you know, first come, first serve, with the new system. But I mean, in theory, we can try to, you know, go back and discuss and see if we can't improve that process.
Just out of curiosity, is Alex in the room? I'm wondering what his thoughts are about this.
Unfortunately, he had to step out for a weather call in regards to the storm that's coming.
Thank you.
Tom, forgive me for just jumping in like this, but I think one thing that I think would be particularly helpful is if it is truly the case that the hope with the revised waitlist and standby scheme is indeed to reduce churn, to create more certainty around use of capacity. It might be helpful to be able to demonstrate that somehow based on actual churn data for past trips, because I think that at the end of the day, the availability of waitlist and standby is only important because these boats are full, or at least they're full online, right? And again, we've all rolled onto boats that have been unavailable online that somehow are only a quarter or half full, and I just assume that all of this is meant to reduce those instances. But at the end of the day, if capacity wasn't an issue, then neither would waitlist and standby. So being able to show how it is that the new waitlist and standby scheme is indeed going to create better outcomes in terms of full boats and less churn, I think that'd be really helpful as a way to just explain why it is that waitlist and standby is moving.
Yeah. That's a great point. So we're planning to have, after this round of discussions, at the recommendation of the board and port council earlier this week, we're planning to have a follow-up session or sessions, most likely virtual like this. Though this is a hybrid, so thank you again for the folks that came in person. Appreciate it. But to have a follow-up couple of meetings, the week of February 2nd, just to follow up on some of these items. And so in that meeting, we'll do what we can to try to better explain kind of how the new system will work and how some of these different changes we believe will change for the better. Both how utilization is done, and then how you'll be able to use the set of tools to book the right trip. Are there any questions online you think we should we can address? I know there's a lot of them. So.
Yeah, so we can go with Mary. There's a standby waitlist question.
She's actually busy.
Oh, Mary, what's your question?
Yeah, my question goes to how is this going to tie into the traffic. I know you've got a traffic study going on and I'm anxiously awaiting because I'm in Woods Hole. I'm one of the port communities, just as everybody else is. But how is this going to tie into the traffic and will it help facilitate managing the traffic flow into Woods Hole, which is where I'm most particularly interested, but there's Hyannis and Vineyard Haven, et cetera. So I want to be sure that that part of this inventory management, because like everybody else, you hate to see a boat go half full. You know, you want to manage your inventory and your space, but I'd like to know how you're contemplating helping on the traffic side of this.
That's a great question, Mary. However, this session here, this is dedicated to, and the people in the room for the reservation system, the new reservation system, and I think that's there's another venue for that. But I appreciate the question, and yes, the two are related. But at this point, we want to keep questions to the reservation system to be fair.
No, that's fine. I saw them as related, and so I just wanted to raise that.
Yeah, it does, just, you know, go back to some of the stuff that we presented at the beginning, that we are, it doesn't tie directly necessarily to the traffic study, but we are looking at ways to just speed the check-in process to, you know, we're trying to, right, improve notifications so that people show up for the right, travel in the right place. That if they didn't mean to drive all the way down to Woods Hole because they were planning to park, that we've given them better notification so they knew to, you know, to stop at Palmer or stop at the Thomas B. Landard parking and park there so that they're not adding 2 trips by driving down to Woods Hole and driving back again. That we want to make sure that, you know, the folks that are, you know, using, that are, you know, using however the future version of standby or multiple versions of standby, that they're able to look up those online. And so so they're, you know, they're coming down the Woods Hole Road when it's the most appropriate time, whatever that might be, but just giving them better information. And then again, the new system really opens the door to, if I may, some you know, really cool new opportunities that we are afforded with going to the new reservation, of things like license plate readers and automated check-in and automated, you know, automated lane assignment to speed getting on and off the property. And so there's well, again, it's not tied directly to the traffic study, but there's the, you know, in addition to the, you know, functionality around, you know, just booking and travel, we are really looking at, you know, how this new system can be leveraged to just improve the entire kind of terminal flow and experience.
So my thing is, the hardest thing I've ever had to do with the booking is actually booking. You get yourself right there at the time that you're trying to book the reservation. You go in there and they're all full. And you're there like the minute it starts, or you get one later in the day. It's very, especially if you're booking for, you know, we used to open in January, you book for August, and August is a very busy week at, trying to book in, especially if you're booking for Nantucket. To get a car in is on that day is the hardest. And then you get your wait list situation. Are you telling me that if you're there right at 8 o'clock or whenever you press the button, or 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was, did you press and say, I'm trying to make a reservation? Is it gonna be easier to actually get a reservation on that day? Or how are you gonna go in a queue when everybody else is? Like, how can I be like as soon as it opened, I'm in, and you're looking, and the trips are all full already. Who is getting those trips so fast?
So you mean with, especially with like
When you're
the
booking
head start at the
for a
beginning of the
car.
season?
Yeah. And you get a notice saying on this day, this is when we're gonna open the reservations, and you set your alarm, you do everything you can to be there right on that day. And I have several times turned it on, tried to book in, and all the prime spots are already full. And I'm like, who is getting these spots so fast? It's 1 minute after.
Are you
the
in the
opening
preferred
time.
program?
No, I'm not.
So what happens is for summer, the preferred excursions, they get first dibs. So depending on the trips, it could be being taken up by those people in those programs, especially in the summertime.
Well, if you live in Falmouth, you can't be in the preferred program and you for your car.
No.
So this is to go to.
Yes. Right, and so what happens is the island residents or people in the preferred excursion program have first dibs at the reservations for the summer. So they have their own opening days, as in Nantucket's Tuesday.
Right.
They've already done their opening, so there are,
So that's why it's booked?
that's some certain trips, yes, not all.
And the preferred people can fill the boat? I think that's a little unfair. You never communicate with that on site. Be aware that these boats could be filled by island residents only or something like that. I think that kind of communication is important because it's always very frustrating to be put on a wait list at 1 minute after. I think that to me is the worst part about the present reservation, and I'm just hoping that that'll change with the new reservation. Do you think that will?
It's possible. I don't know that, what you're specifically asking is anything that anybody can guarantee. Because the premise behind opening the Head Start ahead of the general public is to give the residents an opportunity, the people that live on the island that don't have the capability of just driving over a bridge, to make reservations for things that they need to, like going to their cousin's, wedding or whatever it may be. So they have that opportunity to do that in advance. I think, if we were to take that away and say, well, everybody opens at the same time, that would become actually more problematic. It wouldn't actually be fair. We've actually over the years, because we have grown so much, so fast, we've had to break down our opening dates for the summer into segments because of the volume of people coming on and trying to make reservations all at once. So that we did try years and years and years ago, and I'm talking 25 years ago, that we tried to turn the phones on. Now this is 25 years ago. And we shut down this half of the Cape. The phones were jammed because everybody tried to call in and make summer reservations. So we had to break it up into smaller segments in more manageable bite-sized pieces so that it was more equitable.
So are you telling me that the owners, the people who own their house on the island and rent their house, they have the capability of every Saturday to book a thing for the new renter and book a reservation? Because a lot of times that happens, that the renters they pay the fee to come with a car.
Yeah,
reservation.
I understand your question. So yes and no. So it's actually a two-part question. So as a qualified person in the excursion or preferred program, you can make 10 reservations as part of the Head Start program. Of those 10, 5 have to be for you and you alone. You cannot give that to anybody else. So that now leaves you 5. Of those 5, you can directly book those into somebody else's name. Maybe your cousin's gonna come over and visit you. Maybe your daughter's gonna come visit you. Maybe you're gonna go visit your daughter. However you wanna book that. So you can make those 5 directly into somebody else's name. Of those 5, 3 can be made as transferable, which means there's no name associated with those reservations at the current time of booking, but you have to let us know at least 30 days in advance who's gonna be using it. So in theory, yes, they could be using that for their renters, however, it's only 5. They're not allowed to take like every single space on all the boats. Like we do have a limit so that it's not just eating everything up, because again, we don't want that to happen, you know what I mean? We are trying to preserve the integrity of the program for everybody equitably to try to get space. So you're half right and half not, do you know what I mean? Like it's, and it is something we are looking at, and we do value your input on that as well.
Well, and Angela, just to add to that, especially on the Nantucket run, my understanding is that before any of the opening, there's booking of shippers.
Yes.
So it could be that, you know, going out to Nantucket, was it like the Woods Hole might be already half full with trucks bringing goods out to the island. And so then all of the passenger cars are then, you know, trying to book what's left of that trip. So that's
All
also,
of the passengers that aren't preferred are way in the bottom.
yes.
And nobody tells you that when you open it up and it says they're all booked. And you've been on it the minute it opens. And I just think.
And it doesn't
So-
help that there's only 9 trips. Round trip a day.
Or can you just have? I don't,
So if you don't mind,
I don't have any answer.
to provide a more positive narrative, because I think we've all agreed, we've all stated that the current system is quite limiting. I may even say very safe lot. I think the new reservation system provides the organization far greater flexibility in what we can do going forward. But we also have to keep in mind there's a very finite resource that commercial shippers, islanders, and the general public are buying for. So you'll always be taking from the smallest pool, or the last pool, but this system should give you a better chance of success.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope so.
Okay, Eric, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you very much. First, I really appreciate your doing this. This is incredibly helpful to hear how you guys are thinking through things. My question is about the standby as an alternative to the current wait list. Quickly, my use case is I'll come down maybe 30 times a year throughout the entire year. I never know exactly when I'm going to be able to get down. What's most important to me, which I think is also sort of similar for people who live on the island, is being able to know that I can get a boat on a certain date. And so now I do it by making a reservation, which, by the way, the slide I think is incorrect. You have to make a reservation on, say, the wrong date and then wait list into the date you want. You can't wait list if you haven't made a reservation. I get why that's an issue in terms of you guys figuring out capacity, because I'm doing the bad thing of taking up potentially a spot that may never get used on a boat that I don't intend to travel on, but understanding that I may have to if that's my only alternative. My only concern about the new standby is that I don't see why it's limited to a single trip on the day you want to travel. I mean, you're just sort of like then gambling and trying to do a game theory as to what boat might be most likely to have a free spot. There could be free spots on 6 boats on either side of it that you would have been happy to take. So in terms of talking to the vendor, if potentially there could be at least a standby ticket that is for a day, and then you just, if you do that, you accept you get placed on what boat you get placed. But it just saying, making the standby be for just a specific trip just seems overly restricted and means that you could just quite often get very unlucky, pick the wrong boat where there isn't a spot, and then not to get travel on the day. At least with the current waitlist system over last year, I think I did it, as I said, over 30 times. I was always able to get at least a trip on the day I needed to go and back. So there was a great deal of trip certainty. And I think this new standby limiting it to a single trip on a given day is a real risk as to trip certainty. So thank you very much.
Maybe we can ask the vendor if we could say standby. I want to stand by AM or I want to stand by PM for the day.
Yeah, we'll bring it back to the vendor. I mean, you know, just to give you a little insight. So the vendor, you know, their system is based around resources. So you're booking resources. And so the idea is that when you book a standby ticket, you are booking the option of using that specific resource on that specific vessel. And then when the space becomes available, then they can see, okay, do we have this person is in standby for this trip, is that resource available? It's a much more complicated, it's a different kind of logic to say, is this resource available on any given day? Well, then you have this question of like, well, how does it process, you know, how does it process looking across all these different trips? But we'll definitely take back to the vendor the question, because we've heard it several times, is, you know, if somebody wanted to then be standby on multiple trips, what's going to be the best way to do that in this new system with the way this is working? And then, because effectively that's how you're using standby today, right? That's what I'm hearing is, right? So I might get a ticket anytime, you know, during that week, but I might not be, you know, might be on a Thursday, but I'm never going to use the Thursday ticket because that's not what I'm trying to get off the island. That maybe I'm trying to get off on Tuesday. Well, so right now I have to buy a ticket for Thursday to waitlist into Tuesday. And then I'm waitlisting across that day. But effectively what you're doing is you're trying to waitlist on a number of different trips at the same time. And so if we were going to have somebody stand by on multiple trips at the same time, we'll go back to the vendor with that question of like, what's going to be the best way to do that in this new system? That understanding that, you know, part of this is that we want, you know, the vendor is being somewhat cautious in terms of, you know, making sure that whatever solutions we come up with don't have an impact on their performance standards. So this would be something that, of course, we can refine and get better over time. But it's really a question of, you know, how do we kind of out of the gate make this, you know, make sure that this is working.
That's so.
If I could,
exactly.
If I could just, I'm sorry, if I could just jump in on that last question, because I think it's incredibly important. I think your answer is really two separate issues, right? The issue of booking a ticket on a day that you don't want to travel so you can get waitlist on another day seems completely inefficient. However, if we're upgrading the system and you're now only able to waitlist for one trip during a day, that when you're willing to really take, as long as I can get over Wednesday afternoon, I'm willing to adjust my schedule. If it's the former and not the latter, then I think we're taking a huge step back in system capabilities. Like, to me, that should be a non-starter, right? Like, if you need to get over on a Thursday and you're willing to be flexible to get over any time on Thursday, but our new system is going to make you pick one trip, that seems like a huge step back.
And I agree with that. I understand the comment that you made on resources, although this isn't that large a problem given today's computing power. So I'm a little surprised by that, if that's really a restriction. But But anyway, that's the whole point, is it really is, if you can't do sort of multiple trips for a day just to try to get some certainty, I know many people feel the same way. It really is a huge step back in for a large people, given their use case of the ferry. So thank you very much.
The future proposal is for 5 trips within that day, if you wait list. So you will be able to be flexible.
It's just the standby is one.
Standby is different type of language.
Right, but that's the issue, is that I need to get off on the 30th. I can't wait list, right, for 5 on the day. I need to get a wait list. Doesn't that assume I already have a ticket for that day? Standby is how I need to try to get a ticket for that day.
Correct.
So that's the point. Wait list, the wait list within a given day, frankly, that's icing on the cake. If I get one on the 30th, and maybe I can now wait list to get a better one, I'm already in the land of milk and honey. What I need to get is a ticket on the 30th, when right now it's showing full capacity. And if I have to pick a specific boat to stand by onto, the odds are pretty good that I'm not going to get over on the 30th. Whereas there could be 7 other boats that had capacity on the 30th that I've been very happy to go on. So I think you guys understand it. I'm done. Thank you very much.
We appreciate it. Yeah, I think the use case is clear. So yeah, yep. We'll work with the vendor on this one.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a lot better than it used to be. The original.
All right, so see, right, so I think given the time, we move on to next steps. So again, we'll take as Alex had mentioned, we'll take all of the different comments that have been made in the chat. We'll be working through those. And again, we really appreciate all the feedback, the discussion. Thanks for being our partner on this. We're really trying to get this right. We know that it's, we're throwing a lot of changes at everybody. We know that there's a lot of concern with changing some of these tools that you rely on to book your travel. And so we understand that this is not just a system to you guys. This is, this is the lifeline. This is where it becomes the lifeline. And so, we're really trying to, make the holistic experience better with moving into this new system. And so if you have additional comments, questions, please, we've put up the email, truenorth@steamshipauthority.com, where we're trying to field all those questions and comments. And so, keep them coming, and we will hold a follow-up discussion. Right now, we're planning the week of February 2nd. We're thinking to have some dedicated virtual discussions on the 4th and 5th. One focus on the waitlist and standby, and then also another discussion focused on cancellation policy and special programs. Oh yes, and if you want to help us with testing, please sign up for the beta testing group. The more the merrier. To help us go in and make sure all this is working once it's configured. All right.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for joining today. It's been a great, not debate, but exchange of visions, and thank you very much. It's going to help us in our planning and how we get to the next step of the integration.
And for testing, you can email the same email, the truenorth@steamship.com, and we'll add you to the testing team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you, ladies, it was good.